Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna, Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Full range of experience. It's not like Hare Krishna is always like hee hee ha ha ha. It's not always like that. Sometimes it is, but it's not always like that. There's a full range of experience, full range of emotions. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. I was just thinking about Mādhavendra Puri. I'm going to read from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, read a little something, Mādhavendra Puri, and his pure devotional service. Krishna has built his whole Chaitanya movement on this mood of Mādhavendra Puri. So how significant is it? It's pretty significant. One thing that I was thinking is how when Mādhavendra Puri was leaving, he seemed to be in a mood of lamentation. And he was leaving. He was old, his body wasn't working anymore. And one of his disciples, Ishvara Puri, was tending to his needs, bathing him, helping him when he had to clean up the stool and the urine, because he was incapacitated, he was leaving the body. And so Ishvara Puri was serving his spiritual master with great love to try and help him do the needful. I believe he was also reciting verses about Krishna. And then the other disciple, Ramachandra Puri, he was Brahman realized. He realized everything's spiritual. And he couldn't understand why Mādhavendra Puri would be in what appeared to be a mood of lamentation. He was lamenting, I've tried to reach you, the Lord of Mathura. I haven't been able to. What will I do? And he was crying, feeling separation from Krishna in that mood. Because there's a full range of experiences, full range of moods, anger. This is all discussed. Rupa Goswami discusses this in Bhakti's Rasamrita Sindhu. He does a study of all the different moods and emotions as they're found in these different scriptural accounts of the pastimes of the Lord and his devotees. And he itemizes them, discusses them. But Ramachandra Puri couldn't enter in. He didn't understand at all. He saw his spiritual master in a particular mood, emotion, and he thought, why is he like that? It's all spiritual. There's nothing to. There was no room for any kind of actual feelings of love. That's where all these emotions are. There's no love without emotions. And it was an emotion that Mādhavendra Puri was absorbed in relationship to Krishna, and Ramachandra Puri couldn't understand at all. He criticized him. He said, why are you crying? You shouldn't be crying. Everything's spiritual. There's nothing to cry about. There's nothing to be sad about. It's all It's all spiritual. And Mādhavendra Puri, it just made it worse. He's like, oh no, at the time of my death, I have to see the face of this impersonalist. Oh Lord, help me. Not only am I feeling the separation, but now I've got this disciple he's just an impersonalist. He has there's no spiritual, devotional energy flowing in his heart. He's just Brahman realized. Mādhavendra Puri, Krishna Chaitanya. So sometimes it's up, and up, no. And sometimes it's Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, and a whole spectrum of emotions in between the up and the down. There's a whole full range of Hare Krishna, Krishna. They're all connected to Krishna. So it's all ecstatic. It's all ecstatic. So this is Madhya Lila, chapter 4, translated from the Bengali of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, who was giving an account under the direction of Nityananda Prabhu, who was guiding him in this service, the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, translated with commentaries by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So, chapter 4, there's a little summary before the chapter. In his Amrita Bharaha Bhasya, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur gives the following summary of the 4th chapter. Passing along the path of Chhatrabhog and coming to Brihamanteshvara, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reached the border of Orissa. On his way, he enjoyed transcendental bliss by chanting and begging alms in different villages. In this way, he reached the celebrated village of Remuna, where there is a deity of Gopinath. There, he narrated the story of Mādhavendra Puri as he had heard it from his spiritual master, Ishvara Puri. So Bhakti Vinod Thakur is giving us this little summary, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard from his spiritual master, Ishvara Puri, who was a disciple of Mādhavendra Puri. So the narration is as follows. One night, while in Govardhan, Mādhavendra Puri dreamt that a Gopal deity was within the forest. The next morning, he invited his neighborhood friends to accompany him to excavate the deity from the jungle. He then established the deity of Sri Gopalaji on top of Govardhan Hill with great pomp. Gopal was worshipped, and the Anakuta festival was observed. The festival was known everywhere, and many people from the neighboring villages came to join. One night, the Gopal deity again appeared to Mādhavendra Puri in a dream and asked him to go to Jagannath Puri to collect some sandalwood pulp and smear it on the body of the deity. After receiving this order, Mādhavendra Puri immediately started for Orissa. Traveling through Bengal, he reached Remuna village, and there he received a pot of condensed milk, Shira, offered to the deity of Gopinathaji. This pot of condensed milk was stolen by Gopinath and delivered to Mādhavendra Puri. Since then, the Gopinath deity has been known as Shirachara Gopinath, the deity who stole the pot of condensed milk. After reaching Jagannath Puri, Mādhavendra Puri received permission from the king to take out 1 mana of sandalwood and 8 ounces of camphor. Aided by 2 men, he brought these things to Ramuna. Again, he saw in a dream that Gopal at Govardhan Hill desired that very sandalwood to be turned into pulp mixed with camphor and smeared over the body of Gopinathaji. Understanding that that would satisfy the Gopal deity at Govardhan, Mādhavendra Puri executed the order and returned to Jagannath Puri. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu narrated the story for Lord Nityananda Prabhu and other devotees and praised the pure devotion of Mādhavendra Puri. When he recited some verses composed by Mādhavendra Puri, he went into an ecstatic mood. But when he saw that many people were assembled, he checked himself and ate some sweet rice. Prasad. Thus he passed that night, and the next morning he again started for Jagannath Puri. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. 3 times the deity came to Mādhavendra Puri in dreaming while asleep, in a dreaming state. So verse 1, I offer my respectful obeisances unto Mādhavendra Puri, who was given a pot of sweet rice stolen by Sri Gopinath, celebrated thereafter as Shir Chora. Being pleased by Mādhavendra Puri's pure love, Sri Gopal, the deity at Govardhan, appeared to the public vision. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Mādhavendra Puri, who was given a pot of sweet rice stolen by Sri Gopinath, celebrated thereafter as Shir Chora. Being pleased by Mādhavendra Puri's love, Sri Gopal, the deity at Govardhan, appeared to the public vision. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared due to the loud calling and devotion of Advaita Acharya, who was worshipping Shalagram Shila with tulsi leaves and Ganga water. So the Lord, he appears by the devotion of his pure devotee. It's interesting hearing the little description of how sometimes in Vrindavan Krishna appears as in a Vishnu form, 4-armed, the maintainer, but he can't keep that form in front of the gopis. It only briefly is that form manifest, and then he appears as Krishna, 2-armed form, playing the flute, the cowherd boy. Hare Krishna, because of the devotion. In the Gita, he says, only by pure devotional service can I be understood as I am standing before you. He says that to Arjuna. So only by pure devotion, undivided, pure devotional service, that Krishna reveals himself. Hare Krishna. But here, he was so pleased with Mādhavendra Puri's love that the deity at Govardhan appeared to the public vision. Everyone could see. In the purport here, Prabhupada talks about Bhaktivinoda Thakur. It says Bhaktivinoda Thakur annotates that this Gopal deity was originally installed by Vajra, the grandson of Krishna. Mādhavendra Puri rediscovered Gopal and established him on top of Govardhan Hill. This Gopal deity is still situated at Natajwar and is under the management of the descendants of Vallabhacharya. The worship of the deity is very luxurious, and one who goes there can purchase varieties of prasad by paying a small price. So the deity, the Gopal deity, was originally installed by Vajra, a grandson of Krishna. So that's going back 5,000 years ago. There was a disruption in the worship of the deity when there was an attack. I think it's going to be discussed later about, it'll be discussed later. And then the pujari hid him in the forest, in the jungle, and he'd been there for a very long time. So Mādhavendra Puri, because of his devotion, the deity was reinstalled. Text 2. Jai Jai Gaur Chandra Jai Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaur Bhaktivinoda. All glories to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All glories to Nityananda Prabhu. All glories to Advaita Prabhu. And all glories to all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya. The Lord went to Jagannath Puri and visited Lord Jagannath's temple. He also met with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. All these pastimes have been very elaborately explained by Vrindavan Thakur in his book, Chaitanya Bhagavat. By nature, all the activities of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are very wonderful and sweet. And when they are described by Vrindavan Thakur, they become like a shower of nectar. This is Krishnadas Kaviraj speaking. Therefore, I very humbly submit that since these incidents have already been nicely described by Vrindavan Thakur, I would be very proud to repeat the same thing, and this would not be very good. I do not have such powers. I am therefore presenting only a synopsis of those events already described elaborately by Vrindavan Thakur in his Chaitanya Mangala, now known as Chaitanya Bhagavat. Some of the incidents he did not describe elaborately but only summarized, and these I shall try to describe in this book. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of Vrindavan Das Thakur. I hope that I will not offend his lotus feet by this action. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu proceeded toward Jagannath Puri with 4 of his devotees, and he chanted the holy name of the Lord, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, with great eagerness. Each day, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally went to a village and collected a great quantity of rice and other grains for the preparation of prasad. There were many rivers on the way, and at each river there was a tax collector. They did not hinder the Lord. However, he showed them mercy. And he showed them mercy. Finally, he reached the village of Ramuna. So these tax collectors, they always stop everybody and they want money to cross the river. But they didn't hinder the Lord, and the Lord gave them Krishna along the way. Prabhupada's purport: there's a railway station named Baleshwara, and 5 miles to the west is the village of Ramuna. The temple of Shirachari Gopinath still exists in this village. And with the temple, the Samadhi tomb of Rashikananda Prabhu, the chief disciple of Shamananda Goswami, can still be found. So the Gopal deity is on top of Govardhan Hill, and the Shirachari Gopinath deity is in this village of Ramuna, on the way to Jagannath Puri. The deity of Gopinath in the temple at Ramuna was very attractive. Lord Chaitanya visited the temple and offered his obeisances with great devotion. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu offered his obeisances at the lotus feet of the Gopinath deity, the helmet of flowers on the head of Gopinath fell down and landed on the head of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We see something similar to that happening with Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati during the Ratha Yatra in Jagannath Puri. Because Bhaktivinoda Thakur was the magistrate of the city, the Rath cart passed by his house in the festival and paused briefly. Bhaktivinoda Thakur's wife came out carrying her son. He was an infant at the time, a small child, and placed him at the feet of the deity on the Rath cart for blessings. And the flower garland from the deity fell onto Bhaktisiddhanta, fell down onto Bhaktisiddhanta. So here we see, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu offered his obeisances at the lotus feet of Gopinath deity, the helmet of flowers on the head of Gopinath fell down and landed on the head of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When the deity's helmet fell upon his head, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became very pleased, and thus he chanted and danced in various ways for his devotees. All the servants of the deity were struck with wonder due to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's intense love, his exquisite beauty, and his transcendental qualities. Because of their love for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they served him in many ways, and that night the Lord stayed at the temple of Gopinath. The Lord remained there because he was very eager to receive the remnants of sweet rice offered to the Gopinath deity, having heard a narration from his spiritual master Ishwar Puri of what had once happened there. The deity was known widely as Shirachora Gopinath, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told his devotees the story of how the deity became so famous. So he's repeating what he heard from his spiritual master Ishwar Puri. Formerly, the deity had stolen a pot of sweet rice from Mādhavendra Puri. Therefore, he became very famous as the Lord who stole the sweet rice. Once, Sri Mādhavendra Puri traveled to Vrindavan, where he came upon the hill known as Govardhan. Mādhavendra Puri was almost mad in his ecstasy of love of Godhead, and he did not know whether it was day or night. Sometimes he stood up, sometimes he fell to the ground. He could not discriminate whether he was in a proper place or not. Mādhavendra Puri was almost mad in his ecstasy of love of Godhead. He did not know whether it was day or night. Sometimes he stood up, sometimes he fell to the ground. He could not discriminate whether he was in a proper place or not. After circumambulating the hill, Mādhavendra Puri went to Govinda Kund and took his bath. He then sat beneath a tree to take his evening rest. While he was sitting beneath a tree, an unknown cowherd boy came with a pot of milk, placed it before Mādhavendra Puri, and smiling addressed him as follows. "Oh, Mādhavendra Puri, please drink the milk I have brought. Why don't you beg some food to eat? What kind of meditation are you undergoing?" Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. "Oh, Mādhavendra Puri, please drink the milk I have brought." This is a little cowherd boy with a little pot of milk. "Why don't you beg some food to eat? What kind of meditation are you undergoing?" When he saw the beauty of that boy, Mādhavendra Puri became very satisfied. Hearing his sweet words, he forgot all hunger and thirst. Mādhavendra Puri said, "Who are you? Where do you reside? And how did you know that I was fasting? The boy replied, Sir, I'm a cowherd boy, and I reside in this village. In my village, no one fasts. In this village, a person can beg food from others and thus eat. Some people drink only milk, but if a person does not ask anyone for food, I supply him all his eatables. The women who come here to take water saw you, and they supplied me with this milk and sent me to you. The boy continued, I must go very soon to milk the cows, but I shall return and take back this milk pot from you. Saying this, the boy left the place. Indeed, suddenly, he couldn't be seen anymore. Mādhavendra Puri's heart was filled with wonder. Hare Krishna. After drinking the milk, Mādhavendra Puri washed the pot, put it aside. He looked toward the path, but the boy never returned. This is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu telling this pastime. So, we know that he's Krishna, and he is that little cowherd boy that came to Mādhavendra Puri. But now he's in a pastime of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, remembering the other pastime. Mādhavendra Puri's devotion so attracted Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna. Mādhavendra Puri could not sleep. He sat and chanted the Hare Krishna mantra, and at the end of the night he dozed a little and his external activities stopped. Yeah, the word for word, he chanted the Maha Mantra. Namalaya chants the name, the Maha Mantra. In a dream, Mādhavendra Puri saw the very same boy. The boy came before him, holding his hand, took him to a bush in the jungle. He's dreaming this. The boy showed Mādhavendra Puri the bush and said, I reside in this bush, and because of this I suffer very much from severe cold, rain showers, winds, and scorching heat. Please, bring the people of the village and get them to take me out of this bush. Then have them situate me nicely on top of the hill. Please construct a temple on top of that hill, the boy continued, and install me in that temple. After this, wash me with large quantities of cold water so that my body may be cleansed. For many days I have been observing you, and I have been wondering, when will Mādhavendra Puri come here to serve me? I have accepted your service due to your ecstatic love for me. Thus I shall appear, and by my audience all fallen souls will be delivered. I have accepted your service due to your ecstatic love for me. Thus I shall appear, and by my audience all fallen souls will be delivered. My name is Gopal. I'm the lifter of Govardhan Hill. I was installed by Vajra, and here I am the authority. When the Muslims attacked, the priest who was serving me hid me in this bush in the jungle. Then he ran away out of fear of the attack. Since the priest went away, I have been staying in this bush. It is very good that you have come here. Now just remove me with care. I wonder who that bush was that was giving Krishna shelter, hiding him. It's another kind of pastime where Krishna is hidden in order to be protected from an attack. Krishna, when he appeared in Vrindavan, he was hiding there from the attack of Kamsa. And now there was an attack, thousands of years later, attack of the deity that was installed by a grandson of Krishna. And he was hidden in a bush. Now the bush is a living entity. So someone was protecting Krishna, but didn't have much facility to do it very nicely. After saying this, the boy disappeared. Then Mādhavendra Puri woke up and began to consider his dream. Mādhavendra Puri began to lament. I saw Lord Krishna directly, but I could not recognize him. Thus he fell down on the ground in ecstatic love. Mādhavendra Puri cried for some time, but then he fixed his mind on executing the order of Gopal, and thus he became tranquil. After taking his morning bath, Mādhavendra Puri entered the village and assembled all the people. Then he spoke as follows. The proprietor of this village, Govardhan Dari, is lying in the bushes. Let us go there and rescue him from that place. The bushes are very dense, and we will not be able to enter the jungle. Therefore, take choppers and spades to clear the way. After hearing this, all the people accompanied Mādhavendra Puri with great pleasure. According his directions, they cut down bushes, cleared a path, and entered the jungle. Mādhavendra Puri is a pure devotee. When he spoke, they were inspired for service, as he was inspired for service. When they saw the deity covered with dirt and grass, they were all struck with wonder and pleasure. After they cleansed the body of the deity, some of them said, "The deity is very heavy. No one person can move him." Since the deity was very heavy, some of the stronger men assembled to carry him to the top of the hill. Mādhavendra Puri also went there. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. One time on traveling, we had a traveling ladies' party. We were selling things to raise funds for the farm project. And I remember we had a mobile home and it got stuck in the mud. And it was a deity. We had a little deity, a little temple in the mobile home. And remember I said, that's because Krishna's so heavy. We'll take the deity out and we'll be able to get to... But nobody appreciated the way I was seeing things. The reason that it's stuck in the mud is because the deity's so heavy. It was just a little deity. And everybody looked at me like, Krishna. I'm still convinced it was because the deity was so heavy. That's why we were stuck. Still convinced. And if they had followed, well, we could have got the mobile home out of the mud. Hare Krishna. So here, the deity was very heavy. Some of the stronger men assembled to carry him to the top of the hill. Mādhavendra Puri also went there. A big stone was made into a throne, and the deity was installed upon it. Another big stone was placed behind the deity for support. All the Brahmana priests of the village gathered together with 9 water pots, and water from Govinda Kund lake was brought there and filtered. When the deity was being installed, 900 water pots were brought from Govinda Kund. So in this verse, it says 9 water pots. In this verse, Nava, 9. And in the next verse, Satagata, Nava Satagata, 900. So when the installation was being performed, there were 900 pots of water from Govinda Kund. There were musical sounds of bugles and drums, and the singing of women. During the festival, at the installation ceremony, some people sang, some danced. All the milk, yogurt, and clarified butter in the village was brought to the festival. A great miracle had just taken place. Various foods and sweetmeats, as well as other kinds of presentations, were brought there. I am unable to describe all these. The villagers brought a large quantity of, who's that I saying I am unable? I think it's Krishnadas Kaviraj saying that. I'm unable to describe all these. The villagers brought a large quantity of tulsi leaves, flowers, and various kinds of garments. Then Sri Mādhavendra Puri personally began the Abhishek, bathing ceremony. Prabhupada's purport in the Hari Bhakti Vilas, 6th Vilas, verse 30, it is stated that the deity should be bathed in water mixed with yogurt and milk, accompanied by the sounds of conch shells, bells, and other instruments, and the chanting of the mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Namaha. No, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Namaha. As well as the chanting of the Brahma Sanhita verses beginning Chintamani Prakara Sadmasu, Kalpa Viksha, Lakshafratashu, Sharabir Palayantam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. It's interesting because in the temple worship that Srila Prabhupada established within the ISKCON society, before the Bhagavatam class, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya is chanted. And then when the greeting of the deity in the morning, after he's been dressed and bathed and fed like this, worshipped like that way, the verses from Brahma Sanhita recited. Chintamani Prakara Sadmasu Kalpa Viksha Vikshavratashu Sarabhir Abhiyanantam. Interesting. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Next verse. After all inauspicious things were driven away by the chanting of the mantra, the deity's bathing ceremony started. First, the deity was massaged with a large quantity of oil so that his body became very glossy. I wonder what the deity was formed out of. Was it? So he was very heavy. Was he marble? Was he brass? What kind of deity? He's very heavy. Marble is very heavy. I don't know. I could go there, I suppose, or I could go on Google and research and get some photos of the deity, which I'll probably do. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Oh, I think there's an interruption coming. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Rama. Thank you. Goodbye. Okay, next verse. After the first bathing, further bathings were conducted with Panchagavya and then with Panchamrita. Then the Mahasnana was performed with ghee and water, which has been brought in 100 pots. So Prabhupada's going to explain here what that means. Purport. The ingredients of Panchagavya are milk, yogurt, ghee, clarified butter, cow urine, and cow dung. So this is all from the cow. Milk, yogurt, ghee, cow urine, and cow dung. All these items come from the cow. They're excreted one way or another from the cow. Therefore, we can just imagine how important the cow is, since its urine and stool are required for bathing the deity. The Panchamrita consists of 5 kinds of nectar: yogurt, milk, ghee, honey, and sugar. The major portion of this preparation also comes from the cow. To make it more palatable, sugar and honey are added. After the Mahasnana was finished, the deity was again massaged with scented oil and his body made glossy. Then the last bathing ceremony was performed with scented water kept within a conch shell. So he's massaged with oil again, and then he was bathed with scented water being poured out from a conch shell. Prabhupada's commentary. In his commentary on this occasion, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur quotes from Hari Bhakti Vilas. Barley powder, wheat powder, vermilion powder, urdal powder, and another powder preparation called avata, made by mixing banana powder and ground rice, are applied to the deity's body with a brush made from the hair of the end of the cow's tail. This produces a nice finish. The oil smeared over the body of the deity should be scented. To perform the Mahasnana, at least 2.5 manas, about 24 gallons of water, are needed to pour over the body of the deity. After the body of the deity was cleansed, he was dressed very nicely with new garments. Then sandalwood pulp, tulsi garlands, and other fragrant flower garlands were placed upon the body of the deity. After the bathing ceremony was finished, incense and lamps were burned and all kinds of foods offered before the deity. These foods included yogurt, milk, and as many sweet meats as were received. The deity was first offered many varieties of food, then scented drinking water in new pots, and then water for washing his mouth. Finally, pan mixed with a variety of spices was offered. After the last offering of tambula and pan, Bhoga Arti was performed. Finally, everyone offered various prayers and then obeisances, falling flat before the deity in full surrender. So this deity is being installed on the top of Govardhan Hill, and his Krishna is non-different from the deity. And that same Krishna, when he appeared there 5,000 years ago, lifted Govardhan Hill. So the worship of the lifter of Govardhan Hill is now, Gopal is manifest again, this time on top of Govardhan Hill. And what did Krishna preach when he was doing the Govardhan pastime? He told his father and the other elders in the community not to be involved in worshiping demigods. There was no need. But the demigods, it's a business arrangement. But just to worship Govardhan Hill, everything is supplied there for the cows. Everything they need, the grass, and not to become sidetracked, thinking that the demigods are all in all. We understand that they're actually servants of Krishna also. And so to serve the master of the demigods is enough. Next verse. As soon as the people of the village had understood that the deity was going to be installed, they had brought their entire stock of rice, dal, and wheat flour. They brought such large quantities that the entire surface of the top of the hill was filled. So this is more Govardhan. This is in preparation for the appearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is in Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Govardhan worship when Krishna was near, as the cowherd boy was present, took place one way, the lifting of Govardhan Hill, and now in all the temples around the world, the lifting of Govardhan Hill is celebrated. But this is another worship of Govardhan Hill. This is Govardhan Hill in connection with Chaitanya Lila and the devotion of Mādhavendra Puri. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. When the villagers brought their stock of rice, dal, and flour, the potters of the village brought all kinds of cooking pots, and in the morning the cooking began. 10 Brahmins cooked the rice grains, and 5 Brahmins cooked both dry and liquid vegetables. The vegetable preparations were made from various kinds of spinach, roots, and fruits collected from the forest. And someone had made bada and badi by mashing dal. In this way, the Brahmanas prepared all kinds of food. 5 to 7 men had prepared a huge quantity of chapatis, which were sufficiently covered with ghee, clarified butter, as were all the vegetables, rice, and dal. So everything's soaked in ghee. All the cooked rice was stacked on palasa leaves, which were on new cloths spread over the ground. Palasa leaves. I wonder what those are. I know banana leaves. Is that another name for banana? The leaves of the palasa. Well, anyway, big leaves. Around the stack of cooked rice were stacks of chapatis, and all the vegetables and liquid vegetable preparations were placed in different pots and put around them. Pots of yogurt, milk, butter, and shukarini, sweet rice, cream, and solid cream were placed alongside the vegetables. This is a huge offering for a huge feast. Prabhupada's one sentence purport here. In this kind of ceremony, which is called anakuta, cooked rice is stacked like a small mountain for prasad distribution. In this way, the anakuta ceremony was performed. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Krishna. In Vrindavan, the cuckoos sing in 5 different tunes. This one only knows one. In this way, the Anakuta ceremony was performed, and Mādhavendra Puri Goswami personally offered everything to Gopal. Many water pots were filled with scented water for drinking, and Lord Gopal, who had been hungry for many days, ate everything offered to him. Although Sri Gopal ate everything offered, still, by the touch of his transcendental hand, everything remained as before. Prabhupada's purport, which in a few paragraphs here. The atheist cannot understand how the Supreme Personality of Godhead, appearing in the form of the deity, can eat all the food offered by his devotees. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, 9:26, Patram pushpam palam toyam yomi bhakta prayachati tadaham bhaktyo paritam ashnami prayatatmanaha. Translation: If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, I will accept it. The Lord is Purna, complete, and therefore he eats everything offered by his devotees. However, by the touch of his transcendental hand, all the food remains exactly as before. It is the quality that is changed. Therefore, the food was offered. It was something else. But after it is offered, before the food was offered, it was something else. But after it is offered, the food acquires a transcendental quality. Because the Lord is Purna, he remains the same even after eating. Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. The food offered to Krishna is qualitatively as good as Krishna. Just as Krishna is avyaya, indestructible, the food eaten by Krishna, being identical with him, remains as before. It's a great mystery how that happens. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna, the food is there before the offering, and the food is there after the offering. How is it Krishna ate it? It's explained that it's not exactly the food that Krishna is relishing, it's the devotion of the devotee. Krishna is accepting, he is tasting, not exactly, he's tasting the food, but he's tasting the devotion of the devotee. And if they're reciting mantras, he's accepting the offerings by hearing the devotion in their chanting of the mantras. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. It's just, Krishna remains a mystery. For some. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. It's funny, Prabhupada, he actually said, I don't know where it is, but he said, even if there isn't any Krishna, isn't this a wonderful way to live? Even if there isn't any Krishna. Oh, but there is Krishna. But even if there isn't this a wonderful way to live? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So the purport continues. Apart from this, Krishna can eat the food with any one of his transcendental senses. He can eat, because this eating isn't just eating, it's tasting or relishing. He can eat or taste or relish by seeing the food or by touching it. No one should think that it's necessary for Krishna to eat. He does not become hungry like an ordinary human being. Nonetheless, he presents himself as being hungry, and as such, he can eat everything and anything, regardless of quantity. The philosophy underlying Krishna's eating is understandable by our transcendental senses. When our senses are purified by constantly being engaged in the devotional service of the Lord, we can understand Krishna's activities, names, forms, qualities, pastimes, and entourage. Atak Shri Krishna Namadi, Nabhavet Grayam Indrai, Sevan Mukhe Hijibada, Swayam Eva Sparatyata. Translation: no one can understand Krishna by the blunt material senses, but he reveals himself to the devotees, being pleased with them for their transcendental loving service unto him. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And that's exactly what happened with Mādhavendra Puri, being pleased by transcendental loving service to the Lord. Then the Gopal deity, Krishna, came to Mādhavendra Puri personally and also guided him and instructed him to install the Gopal deity. And everyone could see Krishna in the deity form and render service. How Gopal ate everything while the food remained the same was transcendentally perceived by Mādhavendra Puri Goswami. Nothing remains a secret to the devotees of the Lord. Nothing remains a secret to the devotees of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Lukana Kichunai, Lukana Kichunai, no secrets. The wonderful festival and installation of Sri Gopalaji was arranged in one day. Certainly all this was accomplished by the potency of Gopal. No one but a devotee can understand this. The wonderful festival and installation of Sri Gopalaji with the 900 pots of water and the all the bathing and all the prasad, the foodstuffs that were all the offerings, covering the whole top of Govardhan Hill. You ready for this? The whole thing was arranged in one day. So Govardhan Hill is like that. It's a really miraculous place because Krishna, when he appeared, he actually lifted the hill. He was just a small child, like 6 years old. And he lifted the hill on one little finger of his hand. See, God can do these things. God can do anything. He's creating the whole thing anyway. But when he appears as a human being and he does something, so this festival was very miraculous, and it was by the potency of Gopal. The whole thing was just in one day. He did the whole thing. So this is Govardhan Hill. It's a really powerful, spiritually powerful place. Prabhupada's purport: the Krishna consciousness movement has spread all over the world within a very short time, 5 years. And mundane people are very astonished at this. However, by the grace of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we understand that everything is possible by the grace of Krishna. So yes, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada is in the same category as the great Vaishnava Acharyas, like Mādhavendra Puri, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta. And his miracle, he was asked one time, he said, they were in the airport, and I guess they were waiting for a flight. Yeah, waiting to leave. He was surrounded by disciples, and a reporter was there asking questions. And it was a good question. They said that, you're a spiritual person, and spiritual persons, they, in the Christian tradition especially, they perform miracles, healings, giving sight to the blind. It's in the scripture, the Christian scriptures, that this was, at least at the time of Christ, these things were going on. Now, Hare Krishna, a lot of it's a show, but in the scripture at the time of Christ, so the potency is there. But so they asked that question. So spiritual people, saints, they perform miracles. So what are your miracles? It was a nice question. And Prabhupada emotioned to all the disciples around, and he said, "This is my miracle." Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. And miracle it is. Hare Krishna, Krishna. And the miracle is still going on. So the Krishna consciousness movement has spread all over the world within a very short time. Why does Krishna have to take 5 years? In 5 days he can spread his name and fame all over the world like wildfire. Those who have faith in and devotion to Krishna can understand that these things happen so wonderfully by the grace of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We are simply the instruments. In the fierce battle of Kurukshetra, Arjuna was victorious within 18 days simply because Krishna's grace was on his side. What's going on here? Hare Krishna. Because Krishna's grace was on his side. Some Sanskrit here from the Bhagavad Gita, 1878. Wherever there's Krishna, the master of all mystics, and wherever there's Arjuna, the supreme archer, there will also certainly be opulence, victory, extraordinary power, and morality. That is my opinion. That's Krishna speaking. Oh, no, that's Sanjaya. I'm sorry. No, that was Sanjaya. As he's relating the conversation between Krishna and Arjuna to Dhritarashtra, Sanjaya is saying, wherever there's Krishna, the master of all mystics, and wherever there's Arjuna, the supreme archer, there will also certainly be opulence, victory, extraordinary power, and morality. That is my opinion. Now, Sanjaya was a student of Srila Vyasadeva, who had the ability to hear that conversation between Krishna and Arjuna, although he wasn't there at that place. He was in the palace with Dhritarashtra. He had it's kind of like a mystic power, remote viewing kind of power given to him by Vyasadeva. Yeah, this is where I'd heard that, the 18 days thing, the preachers of Krishna consciousness that could transform the world in 18 days. So that's what's going on here. Prabhupada's purport continues that the preachers in our Krishna consciousness movement are sincere devotees of Krishna. Krishna will always be with them because he's very kind and favorable to all his devotees. Just as Arjuna and Krishna were victorious in the battle of Kurukshetra, this Krishna consciousness movement will surely emerge victorious if we but remain sincere devotees of the Lord and serve the Lord according to the advice of the predecessors, the 6 Goswamis and other devotees of the Lord. As Narottam Das Thakur has stated, It's a line from his song that I'm not all that familiar with. The Krishna consciousness devotee must always desire to remain in the society of devotees. Bhakta Sanivas. They cannot go outside the Krishna conscious society or the movement. Within the society, we must try to serve the predecessors by preaching Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's cult, spreading his name and fame all over the world. If we attempt this seriously within the society, it will be successfully done. There is no question of estimating how this will happen in the mundane sense, but without a doubt, it happens by the grace of Krishna. Within the society. Don't go outside the society. Stay within the association of devotees. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Stay in the association of the followers of Srila Prabhupada. And his associates. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So the pastime goes on, worshipping the deity, Mādhavendra Puri. But yeah, I really wanted to hear about Mādhavendra Puri. Hare Krishna.